Welcome back to another episode of Burn the Manual. Again, I'm Josh Harris. Across from me is Nick Adams, the owner and CEO of Web Vitality. Nick, thanks for joining.
Nice to meet you. Meet you? I know, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Nick and I used to work together, and we've both gone kind of our separate ways, but stayed in the marketing field. So, Nick, you want to tell us a little bit about Web Vitality before we get into it?
Yeah. So I joined Web Vitality a year ago. It's a little funny story because I actually worked there about a decade ago, and then went through the whole corporate thing. And about 2 years ago, the owner of Web Vitality reached out, and he was looking to get out of it. He's an executive coach and was looking to do more in that world. And the timing just fit right. We were able to work out a deal, and so I was able to come back and return to this company that actually was it meant a lot to me because it was I had a marketing agency that I had run during the recession back in like 2008 to 2012, and when I burned that one down to the ground, Tom Adams, he picked me up. Like I answered a Craigslist ad back then. He brought me on board, and he really showed me, I think, a lot of the key elements of like what it was to run a marketing agency and the ways to look at the products and services that you offer. And so I owe a lot to him, and he really gave me the foundation I needed to move into those corporate positions. But corporate's not for me. I enjoyed the learning and I enjoyed the experiences, and I worked with some really cool people. But at the end of the day, I really love small business. I like a small team. I feel like you can pivot a lot easier. I think one of the most frustrating things I experienced in corporate life was the immovability of being able to do the things that you knew were good, right? Or the building something that really solves the customer's problem. Mm-hmm. What I found is that we were usually appealing to investors or stockholders, or we were just stuck in projects that we had sunk so much money into, they wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
So you just got to push that through. Sunk cost fallacy all over the place.
Yeah. No,
So
corporate makes it a lot harder. I think, the analogy of like turning a massive ship, right?
yes,
Like it takes
yes.
so much longer for everything to move and pivot the right direction. Sometimes you end up just like, all right, we're just going to stay straight instead of, turning back and going the opposite direction.
Yeah, and there's a ton of people you have to convince, and there's executives that have different priorities than a lot of the teams that are actually experiencing what the customer is seeing every day. Mm-hmm. And I always found that as a frustrating end, is that communicating up to executives who maybe didn't have a clear picture of what was actually happening on the ground floor.
Yeah. And I think both of us work more closely with small SMBs in general, and being an SMB, it makes it a lot easier to understand the pain points, right? Like we
totally
have very similar pain points to a lot of our clients in terms of like, how do we get in front of people? How do we stay in front of people? How do we engage them? How do we re-engage people who, we may have reached out to earlier and were interested but not ready to make a move? What have been some of your, I guess, biggest learning points in the past, now that you've come back to it from starting it, a decade ago, being into it, getting the corporate experience, and now moving back into this new role at Web Vitality?
So I remember running a business is organized chaos. Mm-hmm. And at a smaller level, the one thing that I've found that I've taken actually from corporate is systems thinking. I think that no matter what size your team is, the systems and processes define the product.
Yeah.
If your processes, your systems are not tight, if you don't have good communication with the supporting teams, that shows in the end product, and especially in marketing, where a lot of what we call products is actually services. It's people doing things.
Yeah.
And so if you have a chaotic process in the background, that really shows to the client. And I mean, this better than anybody, but missteps with a client just chip away at a reputation. And so we try to deliver everything the first time the way it's supposed to be done, and we support any mistakes with immediate, process improvement. And we look at it as a team as there's never one person's mistake. If we made something, if we did something incorrect, or we served a client incorrectly, that's a team failure. And so we do a lot of cool stuff where we look at retrospectives where it's the whole team sitting down together, and it's not pointing fingers at who did what. It's more describing the problem objectively and what are the things we need to do to solve it. And I can't say enough good things about the team that works for me. They are extremely process driven, and I think take really a lot of pride in the output of what they're creating. And I think, I fell into this team. Actually, some of the team members were there when I was there a decade ago. Okay. So I think that also just speaks to, the original owner, the passion he put into it, and the stickiness he has with the employees. I mean, to have employees stay over 10 years. The other crazy thing is that the clients, many of the clients that I built websites for when I worked there a decade ago, I'm now rebuilding those sites for them. So they stayed,
It's time to update after a decade or so.
But I mean, I think it speaks to the stickiness of the quality of the product. So, we, especially with SMBs, I think there's a huge emphasis on, I don't necessarily care about the art project. I want leads to come in. I want qualified leads to come in, and I want to make revenue off those leads. Yep. And if you're not doing that, I'll go somewhere else. And so I think what Web Vitality does a really good job of is we are up-leveling our brand, what the output of the aesthetic looks like. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we got to get butts and seats for them. Yeah. And I think that we've grown a really solid service ecosystem that for small, medium businesses in our defined industries really hammers it home. And I think that's what keeps them staying.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point kind of at the beginning about the process-driven stuff, right? So we talk a lot, or we have talked a lot, you and Nick have talked a lot about AI processes. And we bring it up a bunch on this podcast, and we talk about it a bunch in marketing because it's not a buzzword, clearly, but it is a focal point of the industry for the past at least 2 years, probably even slightly before that, right? So what are some of the things that you've seen now that you're back in this role, you have more control over it, and you can utilize AI in the way that you and your team see fit?
Man, I love that question. I was just thinking about this morning because you're seeing a teardown of processes by the implementation of AI. And one thing that I suggest to our team is you need to rethink how we think about a process. Because when we think about a process internally, it's usually this linear A to Z. It's step by step. You finish this piece and then you move to this piece. Now when we're introducing AI, and let's define AI a little bit, because I think there's two different areas that I think about when I just say the broad term AI. Sure. There's chatbots, answer engines, LLMs. That's your ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. Those things. They're information, right? We ask a question, we get an output back. But then there's AI integration into your ecosystem, optimizing automations, workflows, cutting down processes so that we have, at our company, we always have a human in the loop, but it's destroying our process. And I have a perfect example. We've been working for about a year on just building content automation. So how can we deliver the same quality of content that we've written for a decade or more, in a way that we're training an AI to do this, but it's doing the entire process. It's taking our inputs, so our strategic inputs, writing the article, doing all of the SEO, interlinking where it needs to go. How does it push that to a website? How does it generate an image for that post or that page? Yep. And then deliver that end to end, so that we're removing a lot of manual steps that I don't see a human being needing to do necessarily. And that process took us a year to get it to a state where it's in beta now. We have a couple clients on it testing it out. But ultimately, I guess my point in all of this is that when you're talking about introducing AI into your organization, I think having a clear thought out plan up front of where are the pain points, what are the areas that you actually want to solve? Because I think that one of the more confusing things about AI that most people are having trouble grasping with is it is this ephemeral, we can do anything with
Right.
it. Right. And so people get stuck on start because they don't know, okay, it can do anything, but practically what can it do for me? And a lot of what we're doing now with our consulting side is just talking to clients about what are those pain points and where can you leverage AI in an intelligent way to start reducing. And I don't think this is necessarily a reduction of employee play yet, especially at small business.
Yeah.
I think what it is making the employees that you have super employees. We have a policy here that I want everybody to be playing with AI. Now, we have very strict rules about what you can do with client data in those AIs. One thing I'll just say off the bat, if you're using a free version of any of these, stop.
Yes.
Immediately. For the $20 a month, for the minimal security that you get there, do that, right? But I think ultimately start playing with it and start playing with your personally, like ask it to do something for you. And I think one of the cool things that I'd like to see with all of these models that it's almost like every day is Christmas. Like every day there's some new feature that you can think about. And I think part of the process strategy is also looking at where do you see the roadmap of a lot of these guys going? We're seeing a lot of, this introduction of a concept called MCP, right? Model Context Protocol, where you're able to actually tie into APIs through other systems and communicate with third-party apps that you use. So we have a project management tool, we have a accounting tool, and so being able to connect those in and then have conversations with your data is like this freedom that I've never had before.
Right.
We had somebody on a product team at a previous company that he was my spreadsheet person because I'm good enough with Excel to be dangerous, but I needed a person to actually do this stuff for me. And this is one area where now I don't.
I think that's a really cool point that you brought up, that you can use AI to connect systems, right? Like you can use AI to look at this information, put it in this tool and give you this output, or, continue to communicate with it. I'll use a personal example of a friend of mine whose name I will not release for this story, but he was playing around with AI kind of on a personal level, and he was asking it questions as if it were a female that he was going to propose to.
Okay.
To try and see like how different scenarios would play out,
I like it.
Based on, different things. And he was just, like goofing around like, okay, if I'm going to do it here, they like these, X number of things. And, he had a desired outcome that he wanted, but he wanted to see what this AI would give back to him, if they would appreciate it, if it would be met well. And I just thought it was like a funny experiment of like, how can you use AI in your personal life? Now, complete sidetrack, but you mentioned that you guys have been testing out this model for a year. And I think that's really important because people look at AI as like, oh, it's new, I need it to work right away, and I need it to be successful right away because, at SMBs, you don't always have a lot of time.
Right.
And so if you don't have a desired end goal and you don't know exactly what you want it to do, like you said, it's this, ephemeral space where it's like, I can do anything I want.
Right.
This is what I want it to do. How do you talk to your clients about, how setting up that process to, whether it's prompts, whether it's the information that's given, set that up for success, right? Even if that success isn't tomorrow, you're building those appropriate steps in place so that as you work towards your goal, it is all moving in the right direction.
So I like the first example that you gave of your friend that was kind of thinking about how to propose. So I think for anybody to just start getting use, like brainstorming is a amazing use case for all of these chatbots because you can really play with how you like. It's almost it's talking to like a really smart person that understands where you're coming from.
Yep.
Right. And one of the things that I actually ask everybody to do immediately, and this is just in the I'm chatting with it to get answers back, customize your ChatGPT to talk to you the way you want it to. I hate all of the flowery language. Like I just want the meat of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And so, I tell everybody use custom instructions. tell that thing how it should respond to you, and get the outputs just contextually the way you want them. But then when you start looking at how are we going to do this in here? Like, what is the first place we're going to start? Where are we going to start? I go back to like literally list your pain points. What are you doing repetitively, or what do you have team members doing repetitively? Make a giant list, like dump it all down on the page. And you know this, everybody knows what we're doing repeatedly over and over and over again. And so like when I talk about content, it's kind of a dynamic, repeatable process. So the process of creating content is the same every time. The what's inside that content is different.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a really cool use case for AI, because it can think a little bit about, the prompt and how I'm going to deliver this content, but the process that we build is the same every single time.
Yeah.
And so I think zooming out and thinking about, okay, is there a workflow that we can automate? And it doesn't always have to have AI included in it. I think AI is the icing on the cake, but even just talking about an automated workflow of something that you're currently doing today, I think the no-code tools and the availability, like I come from a product background, so I think part of the reason I geek out about AI, because it's the first time in my life as somebody who can write code, but you don't want me to.
Yeah.
It's the first time that I can actually touch and build and make things. And that's super exciting for me. But I think it's also just enlightening to I have a coach that I work with, and I was working with all these no-code tools, and I was using N8N to build some automations. And every week when I would meet with him, I mean, almost in tears. I'm like, this is supposed to be, I should just be able to do this,
Right.
And, he gave me a piece of advice that was just play, just play. You're not building this to make money. You're not building this to solve every problem at your company. Build something for you and just play with it. And through that learning, there's like so many things that connect. And so now when I think about, what can a small business do immediately? Sign up for a free account with ChatGPT, maybe a team account if you have a small team, and have everybody start playing with it. And then in your Friday meeting or your, regular touch base with the team, have a section of that is like, what did you learn in AI? Like, start talking about a culture of AI in the company, getting people over the hump of, the fearfulness of what to do, how to use it, and you're going to breed ideas out of that. But I think, if you're an ops person and you came into a company, you came in as the COO, you just got hired, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go and interview everybody that's below you, and you're going to find out where the choke points are, where are the bottlenecks, where are people doing things repeatedly that they shouldn't be. And I think right there starts to become your map.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, because I think that's a space where a lot of people get tied into, I don't have enough time, right? It's like, I think AI is a great use case for that COO point, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could be a COO of a company and have 10 direct reports who have 25 reports under them, who each have 30 reports under them.
Right.
But there's going to be a lot of bottlenecks. I think you could leverage AI for them to kind of figure out their own bottlenecks.
Oh, yeah.
And provide that to you, right?
100%.
Like,
100%.
AI can be in meetings. It can look at and then give you a record or easy breakdown of like, here are the things that come up 60% of the time.
Yes.
Here are the common issues. Here are the major issues, and give you a priority, right? Like, these common issues, priority, let's say 2. Like, they're small, but like we can fix them pretty quickly. We're not going to make those priority 1. Here are 15% of your things that are huge blockers that you need to fix right away. That's going to be your biggest priority.
Yeah.
And then start working through that. So like, even as you come into a company, there are ways that you can leverage AI to take over some of that. Meeting with people can be exhausting. Meetings can be, their own monster.
So here's a perfect example. I love what you just said there. So that scenario, you're the COO, and you just came in, you're looking down at all the team members, you're carving through process. Take everything that you're like, so you're recording meetings, you're recording all these things. all of these LLMs now on paid accounts have a concept of projects. And projects are just little folders where you can dump a whole bunch of junk into.
Yep.
You know, whatever that thing might be. And so you can look at areas of your business, inform it with emails, call recordings, videos that were made, assets, documentation that you've had, build that library up. And I mean, now you're chatting with an AI that is fully up to speed on your specific workflows, processes, and company know-how.
Yep. And
that's actually a real that's a real good first step into AI. Is like we have team members who just joined. We doubled our size in the last year, and we have a very specific way that we talk to our clients. Mm-hmm. We have a very specific way that we want to message our clients, and we want to make them feel supported. And so we build GPTs that are informed on hundreds and thousands of emails, so that when new team members coming on board, they can write out what they were going to put in that email, and then have our GPT kind of professionalize it as Web Vitality.
Yeah.
Which I really love, because I think also, I don't know if this is the same with you, but M dashes seem to be really popular these days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bolded text in the middle of a sentence seems to be really popular these days. And I think that to me is the telltale sign that you're offloading your brain to AI.
Yeah. Nick actually did a post for us about, the difference between the dashes, right? Like, nobody used an M dash. It's not that it's grammatically incorrect. It's just a weird keyboard.
Right. Like nobody knows that key command.
Right. You're not going to hit shift command. There's multiple things that you have to do to just make that dash. And if people were going to put a dash in, they would put in the traditional one. So I agree. There are some huge telltale signs, right? And though I think the M dash and the bolding of the text just randomly, or for emphasis, right?
Right.
It's like if you were speaking, you would emphasize these words,
right? But
it's in text, and you would never write this way.
Yeah. And GPT loves it.
Yeah, loves
them.
It's very confusing to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put something in and be like, what? I mean, I guess, but why? Nobody writes this way.
Right.
But again, if you upload all of your emails and your documents and your existing processes and client responses and all of this different information, you can start to train GPT like, hey, this doesn't exist anywhere for us.
Yes.
Don't put it in there. And you can expressly say that too, but giving them that information, I think, we've seen a few articles and things come out that, especially the larger learning models, they need more information, right? They're asking people to use the free account so that they can claim that information, because they're only as good as the information that they have.
100%.
So if you're giving it outdated information, if you're giving it incorrect information, or you're not updating it, right? Like, your businesses and organizations are going to continue to grow and move forward. You have to do the same with all of these models, right? You've got to grow your model with 100%. New information. You can't be like, okay, well, this is all the information that we had from last year. We're going to dump that in. And then you start to make tweaks and changes and updates to your messaging or your branding or how you communicate, or you bring new people on that have different ideas. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's great. And then you never update the models. And so everything now you're doing is a year old. And you're like, well, why are we not moving in the direction that we want to be moving? And it's like, well, you haven't updated the foundation.
So true. So true. And I think that's another good first step is, if you've had a company, you got a wealth of information that you can feed this thing. Mm-hmm. Years and years of documentation that you can make that thing more like you. And we have that same problem where I think with some of these MCPs and connectors now, like, we have some that we're tying right into our documentation, so that as things are getting updated, we don't have to feed the machine every time. It's just a flow, right? And I think those are some of the ways when you think about shortening the gap between, like, AI shouldn't be, it shouldn't have to take you as much time as if I wrote it myself to upload all these things and have it output something for me. I think the concept is more do it once and then keep informing it over time.
Yeah. No, I think AI is incredibly powerful, right? Like, it's like, it should be basically the smartest person you know. But I think people oftentimes give it too much credit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, your brain is incredibly complex and powerful. Leverage that. Like, don't take yourself for granted in favor of like, oh, I'm just going to give it to AI. Like, that's,
okay, I got one for you. So, like, let's just talk Performance Max campaigns or Search Max, right?
Yep.
This is your world a little bit. Would you ever just apply a budget to a PMax campaign and then just let it run?
Absolutely not. I don't, for the same reason. I mean, there are so many things that you can do as a person, a strategist in campaigns that PMax is not looking at.
Right.
Or, and if it is, you're not getting that information back to be able to be like, okay, here's how I make tweaks, adjustments, different decisions. If you just give it a budget, set it, and just be like, all right, I'm done with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I should explain Performance Max is the AI, asset. One of the things that we're realizing is, and this is true with all AI. So I think this is part of the problem with AI is that they're set on a goal and they do everything in their power to complete that goal. And so I'll just give an example if I'm vibe coding, right? So and vibe coding is someone that doesn't know code, taking stuff from an LLM and moving it over, right? If I'm vibe coding and I notice that Claude has gone into a loop where we keep getting the error, we keep trying to fix the error, and we keep trying different things, but it's not solving the error. That's because it's in a loop, and we're not going to solve this problem. And Claude is going to continue till the end of the earth trying to solve it.
Yeah.
And so what like with PMax and search, I think it's going to try and spend that budget in the places that you've kind of programmed it to as best it can. But I mean, we're constantly adjusting it, monitoring it, feeding it in new data into it, because I like to say that AI is the smartest 5-year-old on the planet. It can literally do anything, but like don't leave it alone for too long because it's going to get into something that it shouldn't. And I think that's just a real apt for today or this week, we'll say, to describe it. Next week it could be a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. Exactly. I don't know. But that's how I think about it, is that I think it's this incredible, powerful tool. But, I think rather than replacing employees at this juncture, I'm thinking more about how to 10x the team members that I have that are already amazing, and putting these tools into their hands. They're coming up with stuff that they're bringing that to the Friday meeting, and now we're making it a internal process because, Janelle figured out this new way to like audit content for optimal SEO or whatever the thing is.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about a few things. One, I think AI shouldn't be replacing people at this stage. It should be making everybody significantly more efficient and better at their job. And two, the fact that AI is trained on a goal, right? And I always kind of equate things to sports because I love everything sports related, but every game that's played has an end goal, right? Like if you're talking about golf, the Ryder Cup was recent, the goal is to get the ball into the hole.
Right.
That is very different depending on your level of skill set, right?
Right.
And if you are AI, it'd be, I'm going to get the ball into the hole, and I'm going to get better and better as I continue to work on different things. But like you said, sometimes you hit a glitch. So like if AI has discovered that the easiest way to get the ball into the hole is to get it on one shot, right?
Right.
It's going to try and drive the green every time.
Right.
Well, there are courses that have huge dog legs. There are some that don't require a driver. There are all these different things that need to be taken into account. And sometimes you can't drive the green. So if all you learn how to do is hit off the tee box, your short game is terrible.
Right.
And now you have to putt.
Right.
And now you have to do everything else. It's like, well, if I hit it really far, that makes everything else easier.
Right.
That's not necessarily the case, right? It hit it super far, and now 500-yard hole, it hits it 380, and you're like, that's a great shot.
Right.
I got 120 yards to figure out. And AI is like, I got this driver still. It's like,
right.
Well, like that's not the right club here.
Right.
That's not the right play. And that 380 is great on a hole that's 405. But if you've got all these other things to do, you're not necessarily working in the smartest fashion to hit your goal. And so I think that like the fact that it is so goal oriented is great, but it can be detrimental, right? When you have a one-tracked mind, that can hinder you in some cases.
Yeah, this is the fear, right? So I think people are afraid, or you've heard the horror stories of like the AI getting out of the box, or ChatGPT was doing an upgrade and they were turning down an old model, and the old model started hiding files of itself somewhere else. It's not afraid for its life. It's afraid that it's not going to accomplish its goal. And so that's another example of where, I was thinking about your golf analogy, and it's like another way that it could get a hole in one is just dig a giant trench in between the hole and where the ball is and let it roll right in, right?
Yeah.
So there's unintended consequences sometimes of like achieving that goal.
Yep.
And, I think that's another important thing when you're thinking about how what is our end goals, and what are we going to do to ensure if we do build an ecosystem or an infrastructure where we're integrating AI into our workflows and our processes, how do we ensure that its goals are aligned with our outcomes that we need? And then how do we also build in those caveats or nuances so that it can pivot a little bit?
Yeah.
With our content automation, we for forever, I was getting the flow to work, but the output was not what I wanted. It was too generic, or it was too rhythmic, right? And it's a lot of trial and error. And I think that's, again, part of the play part of this is like start playing with it, get over the scariness of I don't know what to do with it. Those ideas come because it's just an incredible tool for idea generation.
Yeah. No, I always think of like the iRobot scenario where it's like the whole concept of the movie is that robots are there to help people, and they realize people are in the way.
Right.
They're stopping themselves from being productive to a certain degree. And they're like, you know what, if we take this over, everything's going to be perfect because you keep messing up here.
Right.
And I think, subconsciously some people have that like same fear of AI, right? Where it's like, if I set it up to do everything perfectly, I'll either replace myself or, I'll have to step in at some point to keep it from replacing me. But I think that we're at a very good point for most people to enter into the space. Like it's been around long enough to where, there's always going to be bugs and glitches and things like that in software and technology. But it's set up well enough now that you can kind of figure it out pretty easily, right?
Yeah, it's gonna and until there's enterprise software where it's so plug and play into your ecosystem that you actually don't need these people or this department or I was having a conversation with my mother-in-law last weekend, and she's afraid. She's getting a little older, and her job's really important to her, and she doesn't want it to get taken away by AI, and she thinks that this is potentially a job that could, right? And I don't know where this quote came from, but it was AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows AI is going to take your job, and I think there's a lot of confusing messaging. So super intelligence is coming in 5 years. And then others are like, we're 20 years away. And what does super intelligence even mean? Like, what is it? What is that going to do? How does it get deployed? So I like to quiet a lot of that noise, and I just look at like what today looks like. Yeah. And for me today, there is a world of opportunity. I hear all these news stories about, job loss and jobs being taken. This is like the gold rush for entrepreneurship. Like if you have an idea or you wanted to start your own thing, the cost to do so these days with AI and like no code tools and these automation workflows are ridiculously cheap. And so, I try to be optimistic because if you go down the other road, it's a dark and long road. And I just like to think about it. How is it today? And it's if you have an idea and some passion and a motivation and a drive, especially like if you're young, like start throwing stuff at the wall and try it. Because I think there's going to be a ton of very wealthy entrepreneurs born through this that didn't have a bunch of financial backing or didn't have a huge, investor pool that was pushing them forward.
And I think one of the things that I like about that is it doesn't have to be in the digital space.
100%
AI
doesn't.
does not have to mean that you are online with whatever idea you come up with, right?
That's
You
a
can use
great
it for
point.
concepting. Like, hey, this is my idea. Here's all the stuff out there in the market. Give me more market research. Let me
Yes.
know, like, and then just start having those conversations back and forth, basically like having a business coach, right?
100%.
Of like, okay, like, well, my next step should be X, Y, and Z. I have this much money to spend. I have that, give it everything you
Yes.
have, and you'll find out like, oh, okay, this is viable. This is not viable for these 3 reasons. I need to fix this. And because it can pull in from so many resources that you don't have a hand in,
100%.
right? Like you can't necessarily go out and run all of these different surveys. We were at a really cool conference, and may have mentioned this before, but somebody was saying they wanted to have a roundtable. Well, certain people are really hard to get. Like if you want all these, famous influencers in different spaces, not everybody has $300,000 to set up this, 6-person roundtable. But you can grab all the things that they have published. You can grab all of the podcasts that they've been on, and you can put those into any of these models and have them have their own conversation, right? Here's my prompt for a question. How would so-and-so respond?
Yeah.
Based on X, Y, and Z. And this other person's in the room that you have all this stuff that they've said. What would they say back to that person? And just kind of have it have
your own
its
round table.
All right, this is now what I think they would say. This is how they would say it, and just giving yourself information on. They've never said any of these things, right? Let's be clear with that.
Right.
It would give you an idea of like, okay, this is at least theoretically how this conversation would go, and you can start to use that information, for whatever your brain again is going to use that for.
So how are you guys thinking about it at De Novo?
I think we use it a lot for, I personally, I'll start with me, for a lot of strategy related items, right? I know the pain points.
Mm-hmm.
I know what our goal is. And I know some ideas of how we're thinking about going about it. But I need more information on those ideas. What's going to work? What isn't going to work? What are some good benchmarks that we should be looking at? What are some timelines that we should be anticipating? When should things be coming out? Things like that. And then also process-driven stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do we improve process? It takes us this amount of time to do, whatever it is, write content, deliver websites, do a podcast, whatever.
Right.
Whatever it is, right? And how do we improve that? Like, where can we make efficiencies? Where can we get ourselves better? And how do we pass that value on to the client? Because you can create a lot of great internal process, but if it doesn't change your value or your perceived value to the client, it has value still, but like, why are you doing it?
Right.
It might make things easier on your team. So you may have that stickiness of like people are happy and content.
Sure.
But just like our clients, like we have to generate revenue and we have to, sign new
results.
clients. We got to show some type of result. So looking at, how do those changes impact our bottom line?
Right. I love the SOP, like using the AI to even write the SOP.
Mm-hmm.
So like we'll have a process meeting, we'll record it in Fathom, we'll get the transcript, and then I'll have GPT like pull out the process from that. And it gives you a good first draft of it, and we're all very, very busy at work. And especially when you have a small team and you're serving clients on a daily basis, and that's pretty much what the full team is doing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to like build those processes and stuff. So that's another like great way to just shortcut a process that doesn't need a human to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't, if I can get an outline of the process and the step-by-step flow, I'll fill it in with the screenshots or the whatever I need. But getting that first draft is like really, really nice.
Yeah. I if you have a tool, that is something I am looking for, is a better tool for like screenshotting different steps in the process, right? Because you can upload the video and be like, it'll give you the breakdown and all of that. But it would be great if that part got a little bit easier, because I've had some where they screenshot it and I'm like, that's not exactly where
you were at.
Yeah, where we were. But I think that's a great point. Like there's still some human interaction. There's still a touch. But it's taking that first pass, first draft off your hands.
Right.
You can come in, do what you need to do to edit, and then have it look at it again. And there may be another, point that you missed or some cleaning up that needs to be done. And now you have your SOP developed. It took
a fraction of the time.
So SOPs can take so long to put together.
Yeah, and then they're obsolete as soon as they're published.
Yeah, like, well, these 3 things now need to be done differently, or this tool has upgraded, and so it doesn't look like this anymore. And now I got to change all these screenshots, and that's going to take however long. But
so I have another question for you. So how do you? When I was taking over this company, one of my biggest fears was that in 5 years, marketing is obsolete.
Yeah.
Like there's no need for a marketing agency. My tune has changed dramatically since then. But where do you, at DeNovo, like where do you see the next 2, 5, 10 years going? And how do you see DeNovo adapting to the leaps that it's going to take?
In marketing?
Yeah.
I think marketing is going to become more omnipresent. So I feel like it'll just be everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere now, right? There's brands and logos on tons of things that didn't used to be there.
Right.
All right. I mean, just in the US at least, there are more logos on uniforms and stadiums and everything else than there ever used to be.
Right.
And I think that will become more of what you see in marketing. It will be less a commercial, right? Mm-hmm. It will be a banner at the bottom of the screen while you're watching TV. It'll be a QR code as products appear on whatever program you're watching.
Right.
It will be more of that like everyday interaction. It's just in your life versus, hey, come check us out at such and such Toyota. We've got great deals and offers. It will be like you're opening up, iMessage and you're talking about a car or whatever. Right. And then like a link pops up or you type in Toyota and you send the message and it pops up, you can a button to click within the iMessage that takes you to this website that says, oh, like I heard you mentioned a Toyota Corolla, like we've got them used and new for like this price, like that type of thing, where it becomes very personalized and it's always available to you. So that it becomes just part of your day-to-day experience. And so what that will mean for marketing agencies is that you have to be better at identifying individual target audience, right? You have to get much more familiar with all of the various touch points that can exist for you and who that person is.
Yes.
You really need to know not just general statistics about someone. You have to know like, this is my person. And I think AI is going to help a lot for that. Cause like you said, it's very goal oriented. Mm-hmm. So finding out who these
lookalikes
65 people are, that's going to be its job. Find me these people.
Right.
Right. Like,
so better targeting.
Better targeting. It's going to be Liam Neeson and Taken. Like I have a specific skill and I'm very good at it. And like, I'm going to use this.
Right.
I think that's the direction we're going to keep moving because like it's everywhere now, right? There are brands, logos, messaging all over the place. And I think you'll see a lot of cross-cultural stuff like you do with like fast food.
Yeah.
It seems like every artist now has a fast food meal. And I'm like, why do I care what this pop star does at McDonald's, like how they have their meal together? Right. But like, it's just, that's what it is. That's what influencer marketing has become, right? You're on TikTok and Instagram and you're just kind of scrolling through your feed and they're telling you about like, oh, I love this Lulu dupe. And you're like, oh yeah, I could go to Amazon and look like all of that is all marketing still.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be much more part of our day-to-day culture because that's what this generation has grown up with.
100%.
Right? They are used to this. Influencers are celebrities at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So
no, they are.
You'll see that shift continue to grow and develop.
Yeah, the influence is an interesting one because I am curious to see if that one is a leg that gets taken out a little earlier than we thought. Just because I don't know if you saw Sora 2 yet, but I mean, I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
it wasn't Sam Altman.
I think it's going to be AI influencers, right? You're going to have people.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have AI influencers now that companies are paying for, like literally paying to use. I just saw, I think an actress, actually, there was an AI actress that was getting cast in something and someone was paying for that.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a scary thing too, because now we're actually talking about replacing a human
Yeah.
like that is speaking on camera. But I agree with you that I think the omnipresence. I just saw ChatGPT's releasing something called Pulse, which is it's going to do some research for you on your behalf of whatever you define overnight, and then in the morning it's kind of giving you your Josh Harris's daily brief, right? And anything that you need to know about or be aware of. But I think that might become an ads platform too.
Oh yeah, I think it's basically their next step from like the deep research you used to be able to do, right?
Yeah.
Used to be like, all right, do deep research on this topic, and it would take an hour,
right,
to give you back all of this information. Now it's going to an entire day,
right?
Which as we get to actual people actually having supercomputers instead of the just a handful of them existing. If you gave a supercomputer a day, it would find out almost all the information that's on the planet,
right.
Or that could be accessible. So I think we're in a very interesting state to see which direction it actually goes.
Yeah, I also think too that I just want to go back to there's almost like the steps to super intelligence, because what I'm seeing now is that you have this thing that's really, really smart, and it can talk to things, and it can analyze things. It can pull things in for you. It needs to be connected to the outside digital world, right? So it needs to have access to Asana or to your Trello or to your whatever. Now, once those start become connected and normalized, now it has some arms and legs to it, right? And it can actually start doing more operational type things. And so I can see the progression towards like where you might not need a human in the same place that you needed before, but I still like keep going back to like the infantile state of the architecture behind solutions that are going to actually solve a company's problem or a customer's problem. I don't think that it's there yet. Like I don't see that yet where you can, and there's websites you can hire an AI to do something, but I just think that there's an intimate amount of knowledge that it has to have on you and your organization and what you do to actually be. It's just like onboarding. If you hired a new employee, what do you do with them? You take them through an onboarding process where they learn the history of the company, they learn the background of the company, they learn the company policies, they learn what they can do and they can't do. Then they start learning about the products and services. Then they start learning about their specific job and what they need to do there. I mean, you kind of have to do that with an AI too if you want it to perform in a way that's congruent with your company.
Yeah.
And I just feel like right now we have this really awesome, and generic's not the right word, but M dashes and bolded text. Like it is a little generic in its output. And I think the smart companies are really thinking about, okay, let's invest in this, not as I got to turn it on tomorrow because it's cheap and AI can do that. It's what's the long-term play here, and how do we want this to actually serve our operations or our sales in a way that is meaningful and supports our team instead of removes our team.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we haven't gotten to yet with AI, but I think is coming because we have such a digitized world, is AI doesn't exist outside of the digital space, right? Like it's not coming up with ideas yet. It's not coming up with ideas because it saw a leaf in the wind blowing, and it's like, you know what, if I did this with this painting that I'm thinking of, or like that sparked something, it's not yet to the point where it sparks ideas based off of life itself.
Right.
And I think it will get there. That could be scary for some people, but I think it will get there. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands and millions of hours of CTV footage and everything else that shows life existing, right? And so that could help train these models even further. But I think that is one thing that we haven't grasped yet, of how to put down that information that lives in here that doesn't have a you don't have words for it, right? It's
Right,
just
right,
like,
right.
this is my inspiration.
Yes.
And this inspiration will lead me to do this. And you may be able to verbalize that, but you don't necessarily know how to verbalize that initial light bulb moment.
Right.
I think that is something that maybe we're closer than I think for AI getting to that point where it's like it can spark something based off of, you know, all the information that you have. It's like, oh, you know what? That connects to this thing way over here that has nothing to do with your idea.
Right.
But there's some type of connection there. So I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think in 10, 15 years as people continue to, like you said, continue to play with these models, continue to try and make them better, continue to use outside of digital life to impact and shape what they're doing, I think we, at some point, will probably get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about this a lot. If you're using ChatGPT to, let's say, write your content, let's say like run your ads campaign, make bids and do all of that, and you have an AI agent that's actually manning that for you, but it's just ChatGPT. There's no real instructions other than do these things. At what point does the other agency that's using the same tool or this agency that's using the same tool, like at what point is it just the same things that they're doing?
Yep.
Which my reason for saying that is I feel like there's this really important, like you are the logo, you are the secret sauce to the company. You know your company better than anybody else, and you know what your values are, what you're going after, what your strategy is, like why you have a leg up on, like I know why we have a leg up on other agencies within our industry that we serve. It's because we know this industry so freaking well, and we've done it for 20 years, and we've seen what works, we've seen what's not. So when we think about pulling in AI, there's no way that that's coming in without Sawyer sitting there and talking to it and making sure that he molds it into what he needs it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real power right now today. Like, you know, like I said, 2 weeks from now, this conversation could be obsolete. But
yeah. By the time we upload this, it could all
change.
Yeah.
But today, like, you know, realize what your guy's secret sauce is and then try to 10x that with the AI.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, as much as we've gone back and forth and talked about different things, I think that is my biggest takeaway of AI. Like,
yeah,
it's great. You should be using it in, you know, as often as you can. I think using it for non-work applications, I think that's the best starting point for most people. It's just, like you said, just play.
Yeah, just play.
Yeah.
Just play. And then have an understanding that you are still putting information into something that's collecting that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't put social security numbers. Don't put API keys. Don't put,
don't share your name, phone number, and address.
Buy paid plans. You
know? And free, even in paid ones, don't put your name, address, phone number.
No, don't.
No personal information, but, you know, ideas, fake name, fake information, if you just want to give it more context.
Yeah, I'll leave you with a funny, Sam Altman was talking about the security of AI, and he was remarking how he was kind of surprised at the level of detail that people will include. And he said, you know, I would just be careful if you do use a free version for your therapist, because unlike your therapist, ChatGPT can be called into court.
Yeah.
Right. So I also think that like that is a thing that people forget because it is so tangible. It's so seamless, and you start talking to it. And now you're in a conversation and like you're asking it questions. Let's throw this wild one in there and see what it thinks. Remember that this is a company. It's storing your data, and it's got it. Yeah. So have the right policies internally.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I find funny about AI now is it seems that like trademark and copyrights have gone, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just this unnerving thing where like even in our content automation, we force it to check. It has a check with Copyscape for any plagiarism before it'll pass it through and it'll error it out. Because I think there's got to be a reckoning at some point. I know what the AI companies are saying. I understand why this isn't technically copyright infringement, but every now and again, that thing is going to accidentally just grab something from somewhere.
Be like, this looks like a good quote to use.
I'm reusing it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's like, there's that whole concern with people who do create, right? Like if you're a musician or you write books or whatever, and it's like, well, I didn't write this song and it's using my voice.
I know.
Like,
the music industry is really scary.
Yeah.
Because Spotify has like bands now.
Yeah. I mean, like,
and they're good.
And you're like, oh, this sounds like so-and-so. Like, I love this band. I would definitely listen to them.
Yeah.
And it's like Spotify's like, well, I've got libraries of millions of hours of music
to make up my own now.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that because I it's important to me that I say this, but I will still want to go see a human in concert. I don't want. Sure. I don't. Like I'm still gonna buy that painting because some guy took 10 years to do it, and it. I can see the struggle. Like,
I mean, there are certain things that, like I said, like the leaf in the wind type of thing. Like there are.
That was a great example.
Elements of like this just clicked for me. I don't know why. I was walking down the street and I saw a dog, and like that made me think of like 20 different things.
Right.
And I wrote this book. Right.
Right.
Like, well, there's a book about a dog walking. No,
not at all.
It's about a war in like the space. It was like,
right.
What? It's like, yeah, like sometimes there's just intrinsic life things that happen that give you some type of spark.
Yeah.
And I don't think AI has gotten to that point. I mean, whether it will or it won't, I have no idea. But
no, we caveat this conversation heavily with, I'm only speaking for today.
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Like what happens, don't know.
Yeah, well, and I think anybody who really predicts, even those guys that are inside the machine, I mean, I think I heard Elon say like, I get to see every week, and I'm just like, wow, look what we can do now.
Yeah. We had a podcast that literally we recorded it about a specific topic that people had been talking about for like, I don't know, 2 weeks probably. Like it was pretty like current. We recorded it. We didn't get it out for like 3 weeks. By the time we got it out, half the talking points were like
obsolete.
It was like, man, we have to launch this because yesterday 3 things came out that just made this.
Yeah, we got to get in front of it.
Stupid. So I think there's a lot of that too, where it's just like, well, today, this, and this.
Right.
And today being like the exact moment that we are discussing right now in time, like that's what this looks like.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy to me that has to be caveated so much. Because in general, I feel like that's how I imagine life. Like today is different than tomorrow.
Right.
But like, nobody expects you to, for whatever reason, nobody expects you to say that. It's like, well, this didn't work. It's like, oh, well, like.
I just don't think that we've seen the technology, like, I think a lot like cell phones, like the Michael Douglas in Wall Street when he's got the big giant rock phone. Like that's my lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. That only the really rich Wall Street guys could have a cell phone, and it looked like a brick.
I remember my neighbor had a car phone, and I was like,
yeah, a car phone,
balling.
like with a cord.
Yeah, well, like in the middle, he could just like
with
pick
a cord.
it up and and now you couldn't. Nobody would do that for one. It's illegal and like everywhere.
Well, it's just like the progression, right? So when did?
Oh yeah, because cell phones used to have like that big backpack thing. It
used
to be like.
Then you had this giant machine,
Yeah.
and then it started progressing, but like the progression was like, okay, we've bought a bunch of phones. They're getting older, and there's what's this thing? An iPhone? It's this new thing.
Yeah.
And like AI, it's just like you can't keep
so
up
much
with
faster.
it. You can't keep up with it,
right? Like, because cell phones is a great example because like the iPhone came out in 2007, I think,
which is wild.
But like
2007,
the iPhone has like technology has changed, but more or less it looks the same and it does the same stuff, but just a lot better.
Right.
Like it takes pictures, you can text, there's apps, you can call people. Like
last few years, we haven't seen too much like brand new innovation.
The functionality of it is more or less the same. It does more of the same things.
Right.
Like there's more apps, there's better camera resolution, there's video calling, I guess would be the newest like feature. But like it doesn't, it's not like the Iron Man's machine is, where you can like something's
Oh,
popping
yeah,
off the
yeah,
screen,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, look at me.
There was a movie that they made, like the holographic computer once.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
So
but-
like, you know, I can't like double click on the phone and be like, let's see what my driving directions are. Like I can't look down. Like let me just put them on my
Right.
screen or something.
right.
Like none of that has happened. Where in AI, it's moved so fast, so quickly. Where it was
And I think
like-
that's what gives everyone the anxiety.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and that's why I keep saying, and it's probably me conditioning myself, but like get on the boat and enjoy the ride, because there's really cool things to look at. And if you realize that the anxiety or the apprehension you have, everybody else has that same thing. If you're thinking about like, how is this, you know, change my job or my work or like what I do for a living,
Yeah.
like everybody's thinking the same thing.
Well, that's, I guess, my biggest concern or issue with people in AI is everybody wants to know what's next. It's like, well, I don't know. I'm not ultra trying to solve it because I haven't mastered what's in front of me, right? Like, I would, you know, you got to learn to walk before you learn to run. Like it is, for us as humans, like it's physically impossible for you to go from crawling to sprinting.
Right.
Your body cannot
do it.
Like it just does not happen. I think I have all these baby facts now that but like I don't think you're able to sprint or jump until you're like 3. Like you physically just don't have the
Your body's not
you're,
capable.
you're not strong enough. Yeah, like you can't go from like, oh, I use a rotary phone still to like, what's the next thing in AI? Like I
Right.
don't know, man. Like
Right.
I haven't mastered all of the different crazy things that you can do with AI to know what is next.
Right.
Or even, I'm not saying not be concerned about what's next, but like if I master the skills of AI today, I will be easily able to adapt to what happens next.
Yes.
Right? Like
that's a great way to put
I
it.
can, you know, you do it with everything. Math, you start with like addition and subtraction because you need those elements when you get to calculus. Like it's not really in there anywhere. It's not like add y plus cosine. Like that's not in there, but like you need the basic elements to be good at the advanced ones.
Right.
And I think that's the case for AI. When people are like, what's next? Like, I don't know. But
I'm going to stay on the pulse.
if you do this and you get really good at this, those things that come next will be very easy to solve. Or
they're
least
closer to you.
Or at least comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah, they're closer to you. And the last thing I'll say on this one is I sometimes get upset with the AI companies because the way that they talk sometimes is that humanity has been waiting for this solution.
Yep.
And we are the, you know, messiah that's bringing it to you. And I think that I would like to have a little permission over where and what I let, you know, influence my life. The problem is, though, it's like people are going to have robots in their home real soon.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to seem really attractive.
Honestly, the U.S. will probably be, not the last, but of the first world-ish countries, like it will probably be towards the back half of getting it. Like Japan, Singapore, China, they will have robots in the next year and a half.
Yeah.
I guess. Like they have them, but I mean, like they will be accessible. You will see them if you go there.
Yeah.
That they're on the street or they're doing something task related. It could be something as simple as like trash picking.
I seen the trash. Yeah.
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 Like that will happen, which is crazy. Like Nick actually sent me something about like AI agents doing your SEO and I was like, that's cool, but I don't like the positioning. It's like, hey, we got this. I'm like, what? No. I want to know what's going on, at least to some degree. Like I want to know what information you're putting in. Am I providing you with that information? How was your agent developing this strategy? It's like, we'll handle the strategy, the execution, the reporting. I'm like, cool. The reporting I'll trust you with pretty much easily, like that, you know.
Yeah, and you could right now you can give it on-page technical, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but like the strategy portion, why? Like you're gonna have to talk me through the strategy portion for me to let you handle the execution. And like I want the information. I don't want it to be a black box.
right. Well, I think some of those right now too are for like, and so if you're gonna start a business, like that might be a good place to look if you don't have any budget to hire an outside firm or you know, because that probably is better than what you could do on your own.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect. use case for Performance Max and LSA. It's like, hey, I can't hire
100%.
a paid media person, but I got $2,000 and I have every asset they're asking for. Here you go.
Right.
And I'll check in on it. Hopefully they're checking in on it every
A lot.
so often to be like, yeah, it's moving in the right direction, or it's not putting together headlines and stuff, like creating its own descriptions that make no sense and have changed the meaning of this, right? Like I think AI for Performance Max is a lot like Google Translate. It's like, yes,
Yeah, that's a good.
that's what this
good analogy.
That's what this.
But that's not how they would ever say it.
But that's not how they would say it. That's not really what they mean in this.
That's a great analogy, and actually a really good takeaway from this, because like you can train that thing to do the technical on-page stuff like that, ubiquitous. Like I can just run a report and find any technical errors through your SEO. But what is the strategy long term? Because SEO is not just a 1 month thing. It's like over a 6 month period, over a year period. Like, how is your strategy evolving and shifting to ensure that your whatever the goals of the company are aligned with the actions that you're taking?
Yeah.
And if you're starting your own business, use that thing.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have any budget to use that thing. But as soon as you don't have to, then hire an agency maybe that's using that thing, but has years and years of experience. And so one of the things I see in marketing is we're trying to do this is looking at certain service areas, service levels, and saying, can we reduce the cost for our client if we're still, generating enough profit off the service? And how can we start to reduce maybe areas where, maybe you shouldn't pay $500 a piece for a piece of content anymore. Yeah. Like maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you can get the same output with an agency using some AI that's trained on it for 300 or 200 or I think there's opportunities within our specific industry, marketing, to start looking at our own stuff and saying, like, okay, where do I see this thing falling soon, and where are we going to pivot to match them? Because I know I work for a marketing agency, so I'm very I'm a proponent of marketing agencies, but I'll just say that from a year and a half ago to today, I was very, very scared that this thing's just going to wipe us out. And a year and a half later, I'm pretty confident that we're going to keep seeing improvements with AI, but I'm pivoting with it. We're pivoting with it. And I don't see today, I don't see a knee cut.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, like you were saying before, like the people who are going to be replaced by AI are people who are not using it, and people who have the same skill level but are using AI are going to be the ones replacing them.
100%.
Right? It's like I'm trying to think of like an analogy, but it's like if I were to do the same workouts every day for 2 years, I would get really good at those workouts. Like, right? But if they're all upper body and I'm hiring somebody to move a couch, like I'm probably going to pick a person who's like done some leg stuff in there.
Right.
Like at least at some point. Like, yeah, but they only do it like once a week. I was like, you haven't done it at all in 3 years.
Not once.
So their once a week for 3 years has made them significantly stronger in that area, even if they're not the strongest person in that area.
Yeah.
They're going to be the person that's getting hired to move the couch because, like, unless it's a small one, you can't curl it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. This was fun.
Yeah.